The Army has, let's see, read an article that came out approximately a decade ago. State of California claims we need to be taxed for water. Water is scarce, and our desalination plants cost too much to operate, run, I guess upkeep, staff, everything. I don't mean to turn it into one of these, but it has enough money for behavioral health services and mental health that just, anyway. But the Army has a solar concentrator. That's what it's called. And it involves the likeness of my mind and my thoughts, an array of mirrors, like my boiler head idea. It's a co-opted concept. So with a little more thinking, and sometimes things just come to me over time, sometimes right away, but the sleep deprivation and what it's done to my brain is, I've noticed a disturbance in the pattern, intermezzos, intermittent timing. Of in between what would otherwise be me just stringing together ideas and solutions all at once and finishing the whole work. So, but the desalination plant, with me not knowing exactly how the solar concentrator is constructed, I only saw one picture. I was envisioning a canopy that transits as a whole, at least, that large enough to allow the sun to pass through for the mirrors to reflect, that transits with the sun, that's synced up and moves with the transit of the sun over the planet and corresponds and is programmed to the changing of the seasons and equinoxes and the sun's position in the sky. So it'd have to do all of that. But the concentrator itself looks like it might already be enclosed. I'd have to see it to know, so what exactly is this? And then really I turn it over to the Army, but if they need any more input, I just give it to them. If you could put this together, then just turn it into a desalination plant. So it has a furnace. So the furnace, from what I understand, is where all the heat ends up. It has an array of mirrors, a magnifier, and a furnace. And in the furnace, we achieve temperatures of 5,000 degrees Fahrenheit. So the general blueprints that I have formulated remain the same. And it is, well, when you have 5,000, 10,000, 15,000, maximal temperatures are preferred for optimized evaporatory rates. Meaning we want to evaporate as much water as possible so that we can receive fresh water in the end. That's the end of the process. That's what the sun's already doing over the ocean by itself. Evaporates ocean water, it goes up into the atmosphere, turns into clouds. We also have pressures, and then we have cool air aloft, warm air, and etc. And they collide, and it causes moisture and condensation, but evaporation of water. So what we're doing is we're taking what nature already does, and we're harnessing it. We're magnifying, speeding up the process. And controlling it. It's ours. It's not just rain randomly falling from the sky. It's like our own little weather system. This is ours. We're evaporating the ocean water, and it goes into one of our freshwater reservoirs. It doesn't ever fall from the sky. We control the process. So depending on the specs of their solar concentrator, it may or may not need a canopy per se. So they might be able to make this in a way so it looked like it was in a box already, just a box shape, a rectangular, a square shape. The general idea is expand the size of the furnace. It's over the ocean, of course. Make it as hot as you can possibly get it. That requires knowing the melting points of certain materials. And then wherever your furnace is at, this should be really easy. I mean, for guys who worked on this, it shouldn't take that long. It should be snap of the finger, 1 or 2 nights or a week. This is simple stuff. If they gave it to me, I'd probably figure it out right away. And go here. And then those guys who know just a little bit more about me in detail go, okay, and then put it together. If they can't do it themselves, I prefer they do it themselves. They should be smart enough. So when the water evaporates, and you should expect there to be a lot of it. 5,000 degrees is sufficient enough to evaporate ocean water at an extremely fast pace. But achieving higher temperatures is the goal, and there's no limit except for the melting point of the materials. The point is, the hotter the better. So whatever you do with the furnace, that's where the heat's at. You're going to have inside of it, I guess would be inside of it, speaking loosely because I haven't seen the whole thing yet, fans. And depending on how big you get the furnace, however you're able to do this, expand the beam of light, whatever's going on in here, so there's a larger surface volume and subsurface volume of water to evaporate. But inside of there, or the moisture, the vapor, it'd be mist, vapor, evaporation. It's going to be floating through the air. That's what you're causing. So you want a large, it should be as simple as something like this, unless they put something a little more complex together. But you're going to want pressure forcing the moisture out of the furnace into a tube or tubes. The simple idea is like a large fan. So you're going to have convection, you're going to have air, and the air is going to be pushing, sucking, forcing the moisture, the gases, the vapors into the tubes. Where it will condensate, it will go through all the natural processes. I mean, eventually it starts to cool down. It's coming from a place that's very hot, but eventually it'll begin to cool down. The tube should be at a declination, so that the natural force of gravity, I mean, we want this to require minimal energy. Let the work be done by the sun as much as possible and the natural force of gravity. So the declination of the tube it's running through will just carry any runoff. Water that condensates, or vapor that condensates, becomes water, eventually precipitates, drips off the top of the tube, leaks down on the bottom interior of the tube into a freshwater reservoir where it's all stored at. And because the temperatures are so high, it will be naturally purified. It's going to kill anything that's in it. So we still go with the V-shaped elbow that is unconnected so that salt may fall down and through. Or you can catch that as well if you want to yield or harvest salt. And there will still be the screen, net, or otherwise barrier that is impassable to aquatic animals for the safety of animals. It's going to be hot in the area, understandably. And you want to keep them away from the area that would be dangerously hot. From coming into that area. It's going to affect an area. It's going to heat up water. And it's going to spread. So you want to keep them out of that whole area. It's not just about keeping them out of that. It's the whole area. The heat's going to spread. So it's going to be an area. You want to keep them out of the entire area. So with some math and some tinkering and real actually doing it, you determine what that area is, keep the animals out, and then the mesh or net will be small enough so that water can pass through so that you have a regenerative supply, but keeps out even the smallest oceanic animals. So like I said, it'll have its own little lighthouse. It doesn't have to be magnificent. Well, we need just something tall enough, and it has a strong light in it. You're going to have to communicate with passing ships. Remember, this is going to be out in the ocean. And you have as much as 10 miles, even though we're not supposed to respect international laws, supremacy clause. But this will be out in the ocean, our territory. And littoral laws, international limit. I prefer to have some type of flotation devices also, like buoys with some LED lights, just for additional lighting. It doesn't have to be spectacular. Again, it can be cheap and simple. It'll be staffed by a few members of one of the armed forces. Preferably, at least, it's all military. This comes from the Army and the Commander-in-Chief. I'm the one saying to do it. Let's do this. Well, let's make it military and stick to military. I got something for the military to do, and it's all, it comes from the military too, but it's all economic. We can be guarded by the Navy and the Coast Guard, and at a time of peace, we get a lot of money shaved off the top of the military budget, and with that money in mind and those funds being transferred into our domestic economy, we also have enough to build a few more ships. And those can be behemoth classes, because we'll have, I'm talking about shutting down all these agencies, all these military expenditures we don't need. I don't even know what these agencies and departments are doing. All we need is a public camera surveillance system and the FBI. Police department, sheriff department. Eventually we can reduce the numbers of those because the officers in them, at least, we solve all the crimes. Well, then we don't need them. Criminals are gone. There are no more crimes. But we can, because the point is, world peace is to be trusted. That's what love is supposed to be, trusting. But you're going through a transitional phase too, so you want to feel safe. But the Navy won't be used in an offensive manner. It's to stay home. It's to guard the coastlines and the gulfs. It's to provide us with national security. If you can't land on our nation's territory, you can't affect us, because I'm going to lock the place down. and that means you have to get through our Navy. So that's my plan for the military. Well, I'm reducing significantly. They're coming home and they have a final job. I'm like, here, Army, Air Force, I need you guys to do this stuff. And then I'm downsizing all of it. And the excess money goes into the Navy. If that requires a new dockyard or two, or a new port or harbor, fine. And a row or two. I love my rows. Because I do trade with the Navy. Oh, well. When you're talking about, I'm taxing religion. When you're talking about 100 to 200, we can't really, there's estimates, $83.5 billion. We don't really know. It could be 100, it could be 200, it could be 83.5. And the $750 billion annual budget from the military could turn into another 100 or 200 billion dollars. Just, well, we ended these departments and agencies as and after we put up the camera system. Well, I don't know what they were doing or why we had them. We were committing crimes against our civilians. And all that excess money, I mean, that's annual. We're talking 200, even 200, but 300 or 400 is insane. A little $5 billion ship's nothing. It's a drop in the bucket. Well, they can't get to us if they can't pass our Navy. Well, then let's get some more behemoths out there. Make some next level ships that, we can play around with. Like, talking $200 billion a year. Do I have to say anything else? You can build whatever you want. I don't want to waste all the money, but this is annual. So undoubtedly, I'm like, well, here, we'll just be defensive. Get the hell out of everybody's stuff and come home, and we'll go all solar. I have the other power plan. We have desalination plants. We'll just make life great for our people. There'll be no crime. And it'll be guarded with the fiercest and most powerful and advanced Navy that the world's ever seen and will ever know. And we can get into missile defense as well. Make you feel safe and secure enough. Probably dig us out of debt. Do that for 8 years. And then go, well, thank you, religion and religious people. That's what I was about. We transformed the country, came home, and went, look, we're at peace, and what do you have to be afraid of? What is the fear? They're going to nuke us? It's the mutual annihilation. I'm like, well, look, well, what do? What do we have these for anymore? To be a threat? Well, I can't be that. I can't even be a threat to be a threat. But you can have nukes. Which renders me incapable of meeting the requisites of being a president. So that's what we do.